We're back. It's draw 7, Shortspiel. The marathon continues. In this game, we have a short end of the stick against Sheet for Brains, which I particularly like. And we're just getting underway. And I'm trying to figure out, I actually don't know who's who here, but we'll figure that out. Don't worry about that. As usual, we have our top 8 as the first stone. It's like our central line guard equivalent. Haven't really seen a lot of teams try anything different yet. Wouldn't say no. I'm going to get some guest commentary here. And Todd Moyer joins us in the commentary box. Good afternoon, Todd.
Good afternoon, Andy.
How are you enjoying your Shortspiel experience?
Doing pretty well so far. 1-1, sitting in the C event and enjoying myself thoroughly.
Is there anything about the Shortspiel, the strategy, that you think you've learned since the beginning of this?
Well, pretty much if you don't have hammer, take control of the top of the forefoot and make your opponent take you out early. Because if they screw up like red just did, they'll promote you right to the button instead.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, so yellow now on the button, but... Oh, and here's JR. And I think what he's going to do is freeze to his own yellow.
That's what I'd be trying to do if I was in his position.
Coming up a little short, but
yeah,
not bad.
He left the line open, so at this point, red could tap back either of their rocks to move the yellow rock off the button.
Okay, now we can hear me. Okay.
Hey, now we got 3 voices.
I figured out who the team names are. It is, one of them is Sheet for Brains.
Yeah, no, I have the
Sheet
names,
for
but I don't
Brains.
know who's who.
Ah, okay.
So,
Is it not Sweep for Brains? It's Sheet for Brains.
Sheet for Brains.
yeah.
Okay, and short end of the stick. Right, that was the other one. Okay, sorry, I didn't find out anything useful. Sorry.
That's quite all right.
Other than that, this is still the A event.
Indeed.
Ah, I see.
So at this point, red needs to run one of their rocks back into the yellow and take shot position because yellow's set up really well in this end. All they got to move right now is move one of the red rocks, and they'd actually be in position for a 4-ender.
Well, they're giving it a bit of thought here. I'm not sure what they're concerned about.
Only thought I would have right now looking at their spot is whether or not I'm playing the outside or the inside red rock for the promote, but the only one with a real line is the outside one, which they're actually playing.
Yeah, it looks like they come to the same conclusion, so... And he's got the nice weight. Well,
Not quite enough, but it does make it really hard for yellow to take the 4-end at this point.
Yeah.
We haven't had a 4-ender in a while, have we?
No, we've had quite a lot at the very beginning, and then I think as teams have learned...
3 in the first 2 draws and not much sense.
I think strategy has just gotten more complex, and people have been figuring out how to get out of jams and such.
We can believe that.
So here's JR throwing the last stone of this end.
Stretching
for
quite
yellow.
far to the right.
Looking probably just for a 2 here. He's already got 1, probably just a draw, I think. Well, not, well.
That's not going to be good enough to sit 2.
No, I don't think so. So looks like just 1.
1 yellow, good save for red cutting him down there after a really bad initial setup.
Yeah, so we still don't actually know whether the team name's the right way around. So I'm just going to leave it. We got 50-50 chance of being right.
Well, if you'd like, I can go and ask them. I'll go ask them.
All right, we're going to have some live reporting here. Judy's going to go out onto the ice. It's like TSN.
We're going to have a live interview going on the ice, find out which team just scored so we can actually score this properly.
Absolutely.
They end up taking back of the 8-foot, so this isn't particularly worth tapping back, but it looks like they're going to play it anyways, which is probably more likely to promote the other team to shot rock like they just did.
Yeah, I don't mind the shot, though, but I think, obviously, more weight would have been better there.
If your opponent comes up that short in short house, you probably are better drawing behind them and using them as a guard. Not that you really have that much of a line cut down, but...
All right, you have the team names the correct way around. I consulted
Excellent.
Haley, our Spiel organizer, and she said that JR's team is Sheet for Brains, and he's yellow.
All
I was pretty sure that was his sense of humor. And now yellow sits 2 thanks to red.
Yeah, it's not going great for red here, although at least they do have the rocks at the top of the house to use. So I'm not sure what I'd be thinking if I was yellow. You'd probably put something to our top 4 area, I would think.
I'd want something interposed between those red rocks and mine. Just give them another chance to promote you in instead.
That's a good idea.
All right. Well, they're
angles might be
going
tricky,
out
though.
pretty wide. Bit of a stretch there.
But she did exactly what I just said, drawing in for 3rd position and cutting down any ability to promote from the middle.
It's nice to actually see an end where they're using the whole real house, not just playing inside the 4-foot.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of races to the button in our coverage so far, so it's a little different. Well, yeah, I'm not surprised it's taking a bit of time to think about this because
At this point, it looks like the best shot would be draw from all the way over on the left-hand side and just try and get into shot position,
Do you think they
even freezing to the back rock.
could they promote the one on the left?
They could, but I don't really like the angle on that. It's more likely to crash on the front yellow,
Yeah.
which is what they're
That's what
doing,
they're doing.
and it's going to freeze on the front yellow.
it's a pretty good result there.
It does change the end from suddenly they're only sitting 2 yellow, and it does give them a play to cut yellow down with the hammer.
Yeah, I think they'll be reasonably
I don't think
happy with
yellow
that.
could get rid of the red one.
No, I don't think
Good
so.
for-
But still currently sitting, well, at least one. Looks like it's 2 for yellow.
If you look up on the monitor, it's pretty clearly 2.
Yep. So 2 yellow. And here's JR with the last one, trying to consolidate.
Just a little tap up, and they probably are sitting 3 now.
That was nice.
So, well,
Red could tap their own rock to try and at least remove shot rock. They could try and just do a straight draw in from the outside, but unfortunately I think their last shot left the rock that's in the outside edge of the 12-foot in the way of that now.
yeah, I'm not sure that's available. I mean, it's not a great situation, really. Not sure if you can go through that port to get enough of the 4-foot. You might be able to.
Not probably without removing the yellow rock completely. They're going to have to put too much force on that to move the yellow out and leave their rock sitting shot.
Yeah, no other obvious path here, so just didn't do a very good job of controlling the front of the house in this end. So left with really very few options now with the hammer. So
Yeah, 2 tap backs where you put your opponent in the 4-foot instead of moving them into the back of the house can really set you back.
Well,
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions in the comment box. Fun from Heidi Groves. Fun fact: the original Sheet for Brains started in Charlottesville at some, I guess, other bonspiel. And a question about where are the Kovac girls?
well, they're around. I can tell you that. I don't
I don't
know.
think they're playing right now.
I do not see Katie anywhere on the ice right now.
No, she is
Nope.
currently sitting in the warm room, so I'm sure they'll be on soon.
Yes,
and we'll let
she
you
is
know.
in fact sitting in the warm room with Sam. So they are behind us sitting on the in the warm room on sheet D right now. So they're not playing.
So
It doesn't take long for the turnaround in between draws. So I'm sure anyone who's not playing now will be playing soon.
With a half-hour draw, tune in again in about 15, 20 minutes, and you might see her on the ice.
oh, well, they are going for this raise in the end, which is the only shot they really have, but don't know if they're going to do enough.
And it's probably cut him down to 2 with that, but I'm pretty sure yellow is still sitting 2.
Looks like it. Well, they're having a look, and hopefully we'll get indication from them. And oh, they're still looking.
Well, Vince is already in there, so he's got his laser nearby if they need to measure.
If they call for laser, they got the person right next to them, and in fact, they all are calling for laser.
All right. Well, it's at least 1, and we'll see whether it's 2.
And now Vince gets to complain that he has to measure 3 rocks instead of just 2, instead of interrupting his game for just 2 rocks of measurement. Now it's 3.
Well, if he, allowed somebody else to use his fancy tool, then maybe he would be able to interrupt his game.
He very well could, but however, he
He's
is
not
playing
going
the
to.
control freak today, so.
It's really useful, though. It's saving us a lot of time compared to normal measuring.
Indeed. I'd offer to bring in my laser measure out of my car, but Aaron drove today.
Yeah, so measures underway.
And we'll let you know once they actually give a result, because we can't see anything on the tool. Looks like the red actually outcount one of the yellows based on that signal.
Okay. It's useful when they actually indicate with the rocks.
One yellow. One yellow is the
All right,
score.
thank you.
All right.
Well, in fact, that one shot did save them from giving up 3 and instead only gave up 1, so it cut yellow down by 2.
Yeah, pretty good result for them. I'll be pretty happy with that. And things can turn around fast in Short House is one thing we've learned watching this. So still plenty of game left. And once again, going to top 8.
I like it better if you can just barely bite the forefoot, because it leaves your opponent tapping you back. Not a great shot position, but at the same time it cuts down the angle to the button so much that it makes it almost impossible to throw anything but the tap back.
Yeah, I did go for the tap back.
And this time they at least moved him far enough that they're in the back of the forefoot, which opens up opportunities later in the end.
So it's good to have backing.
Yeah, nicely executed there. And JR is going to come in again to, well, came up a bit short there. I think
He
wanted
did,
to be
but
a
he's
bit
out
more.
counting red right now, so he's at least making red play to keep them from scoring 2 at the moment. Looks like red's going for the draw, and they're sitting right off to the right-hand side of the pin. So good position. It's going to be hard to remove them from the angles that are available without running them back into the yellow rock, but you can hit them and still take shot position. So that's likely what yellow's going to throw.
I think so. I don't think they're going to be too worried about the yellow at the back.
Thank you.
And yellow, in fact, does tap red back, and they're sitting in shot position.
Well, nice control weight there.
Very good. Taps yellow back to just barely into the 12-foot, and now suddenly red is sitting 2. Leaving yellow with quite the debate on what to do next. I'm sure JR is looking at the tap back on the left-hand side, but he could also try and run back one of the reds. He's got his own rocks back there for backing. So it's unlikely he's going to remove anything unless he's excessively heavy. But hitting the front one right now wouldn't leave him in shot position, so it really wouldn't change the end for red either.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because even if you make the tap up on your yellow to the button, you're going to leave a raise for the opposition, so it's not straightforward. Taking a bit of time here.
Their best play may be to freeze on the back one, but I'm not sure the angle's actually there unless you can come extremely wide. And JR is tall enough.
Yeah, he might be flexible enough.
It looks like he's about to attempt to draw onto the back red rock and freeze onto it.
He's almost to the edge of the sheet there.
He's giving it a good try. Well,
Little heavy to freeze. It does leave red a play for 2 if they can repeat the exact shot yellow just pulled.
yeah, not bad result. Pretty good shot.
Red's looking at the tap back.
Only are. I think I'd rather play on the yellow directly, but
I would too in this case, because the tap back, their front rock is not going to be sitting extremely great shot position unless you get the weight exactly perfect to remove that yellow out past their currently 3rd shot red in the back of the 8-foot. And you have to have the weight almost perfect on the tap back, but the angle is more there.
well, they've made their decision. I'm not sure.
Looks like they are going to play up the middle. They're trying to play for 3 with this.
Well,
Real thin margin.
If they make it, it's great, but I don't know.
I don't like the angle he's currently lining up on, though. It's more likely that they're just going to barely wick the yellow out, and they might sit 2.
Yeah, he may feel that he can't stretch enough to get around this red, but
Yeah, Frank is not quite as tall as JR.
well, he shaved that top one pretty well, so nicely
nice.
done.
That was extremely well executed. He did it to perfection, and suddenly red scores 3 from the looks of it.
Well, they're having another look, but I think it was 3.
With the overhead view, I'm pretty certain it was red 3.
All right. And as we keep saying, it turns around fast. So now 1 point lead.
Well, I was trying to get one of them to look at me to confirm, but unfortunately,
There we go.
Showing us the scoreboard.
We're going to get the scoreboard.
it was only 2 for red, actually. They agreed that one of the yellows out counted.
All right. Oh, tight game at the halfway point.
Red draws right to the top of the button, which is going to force yellow to play a tap back. Which moved about 6 inches. And now red is fully covering the pin. Looks like Frank is trying to run back the yellow and leave themselves sitting 2 with no competition.
Oh, it's worried it's a little heavy, and I think it's going to hang on. Yep, pretty good.
Very well executed.
It's always tricky to throw those. It's harder than it seems to just throw the weight just with your arm. Like, you know, with normal curling, of course, you're sliding and you have a good feel for the weight, but when you're just sitting in the hack and using your arm, it's harder than it looks.
So Spencer was telling me earlier that he's developed a release or a throwing technique where he sort of falls over onto his hand onto the ice, such that he can keep his line going, give it more force rather than just using the arm.
Interesting.
I don't know, but he's over on sheet back far into sheet C.
I might have to watch that delivery
Yeah,
at some point.
I was
but
just watching. It's interesting.
and that's going to run the yellow right back into the red, and suddenly yellow might be shot. I'm not entirely positive, since the camera has fooled me before. At this point, I'd probably promote the yellow back into the red and leave myself with absolutely no doubt as to who Shot Rock is.
Yeah, they're thinking about it. The other thing they might do is maybe just freeze on top of their own yellow.
Or split the difference and just tap their own yellow back an inch.
Not bad.
Though I'm pretty sure red is now clearly shot. But yellow is 2-3,
Yeah, if they could run it back.
and yellow has hammer. So this isn't a bad position to be in for the next shot. There's almost a point to red wanting to make sure you just guard this so yellow can't throw quite as easy of a tap back on the hammer rock.
Yeah, we haven't been seeing a lot of guards like that. But that
No,
would
we
be
have not,
situation.
but this end is set up to a point where red almost has to protect their position more than they have to worry about scoring a second rock.
Trouble is, even if you guard the center, there might be, depending on how tall you are, there might be room to go around the side and remove the red. It's hard for me to say from here whether you can reach that far, but I think you could.
But even if red,
I don't know that I could, but I think JR could.
I think, yeah, I think that's right.
Sorry, Judy, didn't mean to talk
Yeah,
over
no,
you
it's okay.
there.
I was just saying, if red puts up a guard here, like, couldn't yellow just run that guard back into their yellow? to
It
the
is still
button?
possible, but it makes the angles at least a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like they are going to, think they're going to guard the front. Oh,
I'm not entirely sure what they're about to throw here based on what they were talking about.
they're not sure either at this point, so.
Considering
Yeah.
Frank is reevaluating once he gets in the hack.
Well, in the hack is a relative term in this game.
That's right. Well,
On the hack, touching the hack.
Near the hack.
and well, he's going
Well,
for,
you can't be near the hack. It has to touch somewhere.
Well,
on.
okay, yes.
I think he's playing a raise here.
Yeah, he's
he
going as
is.
wide as he can.
And
That
well,
was an aggressive but good play.
that worked
It
out
leaves
really
yellow
well.
sitting 1 with no real easy path to score 2.
Yeah.
So you did force 1 with hammer, which, at least in traditional curling, is a good play. In short spiel, I'm not entirely convinced yet, but
I mean, couldn't yellow now go down the middle? Just go down the center line
If there's room, otherwise you might be able to still go around the side.
and nudge back the.
I'm
that
not
one
sure
right
there's a
behind
full rock gap between those. It doesn't mean you can't kind of throw it hard enough that it splits the 2 reds out and squeeze your way through, but
It's hard to tell from the angle I'm looking at or the camera angles I'm looking at. I think it's a
JR's looking at whether he can stretch around the side. I think he can.
He's looking at the outside play, hit and jam on the red that's on second shot right now. Well, maybe second shot. It could be shot rock still. They might be calling for Vince again in a hot moment.
I think, well, I
He's
think that's
going
what he's going
for
to do. I think it's the right call, especially
Remove
with
all
someone
doubt.
as tall as JR. Why not make use of that? He's certainly got the angle. Oh, has he got
And
the weight?
it's going to hang just wide.
Not quite.
That's close though.
Very difficult to really play those because you're so far out, you're not really looking down the line that you're throwing. You're very much off to the side, so.
They'll rate it at the scoreboard.
So we're not sure who scored.
But
It's JR's team, so yellow is now up by 1.
All right, tight game.
Sheet for Brains is currently sitting up 4-3. Or is it 4-2?
It's 3-2.
3-2.
All right, so
So I apologize for that. The scoreboard on the computer isn't quite the same as looking at the scoreboard on the actual curling sheet. So
there's a lot of different methods for scoring going on, and all of these different scoreboards.
that's right. Some using the traditional curling scoreboard, some not.
I think things have also been evolving throughout the spiel. People are tending more towards the traditional, I think, in those sheets.
I think the further we've gone along, the more the scoreboards have gotten erased and changed towards things that actually resemble what we're used to in curling.
Yes. Yeah, when people first got out there, they just scribbled something down, and it's confusing.
All right, so here's JR.
And yellow is now sitting 2, but with a lot of room to be outcounted.
But again, it's nice to see people using the whole house.
Indeed. Makes for a very different game as opposed to a packed 4-foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we were noticing earlier, is that in a lot of the early games especially, it was a race to the button and it was all in the 4-foot. So it is nice to see them doing it a little differently. And I can look across the other sheets and I do see rocks a bit more spread out than in the earlier games.
Except it does look like yellow on sheet A is currently positioned for a 4-ender unless red can make a miracle shot.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, as the strategy's got more complicated, we've seen fewer 4-enders. Interesting.
And the currently 2-0 A event team of Babies or Villains, I think is the name.
That's right.
Is currently figuring out how not to give up a 4-ender, which would be a first for them because they were a team that actually scored a 4-ender earlier in the spiel. Looks like red accidentally promoted a yellow rock in again, so now yellow is drawing down to the touch the 4-foot, and they are sitting 3 right now. And red finds themselves in very difficult position yet again.
Yeah, so there is room to draw into the button area from
There's
the,
also room to tap back
from
their
our
center
right-hand
guard
side.
rock, if you want to call it that, into the 4-foot position as well to be in scoring.
Yep, so options here.
Freeze that back
It looks
one.
like they are playing a tap here, judging from the setup. And pretty well executed.
Extremely well executed as they're now covering the front of the button. With reasonably good cover. I'm not sure you can get a rock between those in the middle.
Nope, doesn't look like it.
It doesn't look like it from here, but
Might be able to come around the left side.
could do an angle tap on your yellow.
With JR's height, he can come around the right and tap the yellow into the red as well. But I think he's looking at the left-hand side right now, trying to run them out. I'd be surprised if he doesn't come back to the right-hand side before he throws this. Nope, he is looking at the left.
We should explain for those of you watching the live stream that our left is actually your right from the way the viewing is set up. Oh, nice little tap out there for JR.
And suddenly red is back to sitting, or yellow is back to sitting too, excuse me.
That was very well executed.
Yeah, left and right are relative to the hack, but the house is sort of the opposite of the way it usually is.
Yeah, sorry, your overhead view from the backside is opposite what we're looking at from the warm room.
So again, a bit of discussion here. It's just the hammer to come.
And they're looking at trying to play a double with enough controlled weight not to remove either of the yellow rocks fully from the house, but leave themselves sitting 2 at the end of it. I wish them luck with that.
Yeah, pretty difficult shot, but well, they're just checking out the angles here, I think. I mean, I think the shot is theoretically there, but getting the weight right, it's going to be a bit risky. Sure. All right, Todd and Judy have just stepped out for a moment while they deliberate on our feature sheet. I think they probably just have to settle for one here, I think. But we'll see. Trying to play a sort of double is quite risky. If you ever hit too hard and remove one of those rocks by accident, you've given up 2. Well, he's playing a soft tap, and, well, has he got enough of the button? Oh, I think he has. Well, yes, I think so. I think it's one red. Nice shot there. I think that was a good, sensible call. And so that makes it a tied game going into the last end. So all to play for. Here, just one end to go. So Team Yellow will have the hammer, which should be an advantage, theoretically, but in short house so far, we've seen that we have had a lot of steals. Because there's so few rocks for each team, the setup is very important. Just one bad shot early can really ruin it for you. So, and red there going top 4. I feel like that's a little deep, personally, because it's an easy tap back. I think just biting 4 would be better. So they do make the tap back. They only tap it to back 4, but I think that's fine. And so this one coming in a little heavy there, I think, from Frank. Didn't really want to tap his own back that much. I think he wanted to freeze directly. And so an opportunity for JR to push both of those reds into the back of the house, which he's done. He'll be pretty happy, keeping good control of the front of the house. So just 2 red rocks to come. Tied game, of course, but yellow with the hammer. So a bit of deliberations here. And I'm joined, I think, by Scott. How about now?
It says.
There we
Hello.
are. You're on, Scott?
Am I?
Yes.
Hello.
I can certainly hear you.
Okay. Yes, I hear myself now.
Excellent. Yeah, hard to say who's shot right now, but I think it's going to be yellow after this one. Just going for the angled tap. And made pretty nicely. Nice shot.
And yellow is now sitting 2.
That's a nice leave.
It blocks the good angle for red to be able to sit 1 at the end of this, too, because there's no real lane to get to the button off of either of these rocks.
No, very difficult. Now, I wonder if, I don't know if it's really there, but you might be able to play off your own red. But even if you did, he said, give me run back to remove it. So.
Yeah, I'd almost say playing off the red is the only angle to the button right now. That's not a shot you see very often in short house with a hit or roll, because you can't roll your own rock out of play either.
You can.
You can remove your own rock.
You can remove your own rock.
Actually, the rules said on the sheet on the ice that you could not.
No, that's not. I believe you can remove your own rocks, but not your opponent's.
That is correct.
In fact, you are right.
But it rarely happens, of course. So the only good thing about that shot was that you could throw it harder, knowing that the red you're removing doesn't matter. But still, even if you make that, it's a gimme run back for yellow to remove it. So
unless they really nestle in there.
I still think they're looking at it. They're looking at the hit and roll in. I think it might be the only play they have to score 1 on this end. And they really can't let it go any further because they're down 1 and this is their final rock.
Well, here goes nothing. I think he's going to throw this one pretty hard, maybe. Well, we'll see. Let's try and get enough action to get inside.
Contemplating a curl.
I suspect the odds of success of this are quite low, but we'll see. Yeah, he throws
Oh,
it
that's
hard.
very hard.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, there we
With
go.
perfection.
That was the shot. The only
at
trouble is now the run back is pretty straightforward, but you got to give him credit for seeing that.
Frank's pumped about that.
Frank is absolutely fired up after the hit and roll off his own rock.
Look how far that other rock went, almost to the hog line,
He threw
to
it
the corner of the
perfect
hog
for
line and
Skip's rock.
sideline.
But
But-
reach
Ah,
shot
but
for JR.
yeah, not all for naught.
Yellow
So-
taps back end, gets the win.
So a nice play from both teams there.
That was the best Frank could have done, really.
I think so.
He really didn't have another play at that point. And unfortunately, it just didn't really leave any opportunity to keep yellow from having the easy play.
So a nice win for Sheet for Brains, draw 7. This draw is coming to an end. So as usual, we're going to switch out for the next draw. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Thanks very much.